Nikola, Lakersi su bili šampioni pre samo... Ćao. Lakersi su bili šampioni...
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 138 of the longest tenured Denver Nuggets spin-off podcast in the world. Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets' Serbian Corner. My name is Miroslav, and before we begin, please let me remind you to like the video on YouTube, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the DNVR Sports YouTube channel and DNVR Nuggets podcast channel. The audio version is perfect for your commute or to make your office/home office time more bearable. If you want to support the show more directly, you can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/MiroslavCuk, just like my Seco tier supporters Peter Plummer and Daniel Lynch. Patreon supporters get access to ad-free shows and will get exclusive material from my second trip to Denver in exactly 6 days. Oh my God. Here we go. Okay, a quick recap of the last week. It was kind of an eventful week, so let's just go through it. The Pacers game, the Nuggets were without Jamal Murray again, and they started Jalen Pickett in his place. Even though the energy on defense looked terrible at the beginning, the Nuggets still managed to limit the visitors to just 24 points in the fourth quarter. They scored 33, 21 of which were made by Jokic. The second quarter was more or less a wash, but in the third quarter, we witnessed a festival of shot-making on both sides. The problem with it? Well, Denver was mostly making twos, while Indiana was making threes, so the period ended with Indiana being up 1. The fourth quarter was very frustrating. Indiana did hit some big threes, but they also missed so many dumb shots, and even that didn't help the Nuggets close this one out. The crucial possession happened with 15 seconds to go. Denver was down 2, and Christian Braun collided with Joker at the moment he was passing the ball to Westbrook. It was their third turnover in the last 2 or 3 minutes, and that was all she wrote. Joker had 41, 15, and 13. Braun had 38 and 4, and Russ had an efficient 16 off the bench. Denver couldn't survive Michael Porter's 1 of 9 from the 3, and Aaron Gordon being invisible on offense. So, 2 days later, a giant move happened. The Nuggets simultaneously fired head coach Michael Malone and general manager Calvin Booth. They also promoted David Adelman to an interim head coach position until the end of the season, which meant anything between 2 weeks and 2.5 months. We'll see. A 2-year-long arm wrestling match between Mo and Cal ended in both of them losing. The Nuggets decided to use the shock therapy on the team and try to reinvigorate them. Here are my 2 cents on this. I never interacted with Calvin Booth. It's not that I actually interacted with Coach Malone either, but I did ask him one question on a presser last year. I don't even remember what the question was, but it was a day before Game 2 versus the Lakers that year. He looked straight into my eyes and kept eye contact until the end of his thoughtful answer. It was easy to understand that he is a very special person. Good luck with what's next to you, Coach. Next up, Sacramento game. The Sacramento game went exactly like I pictured it. The Nuggets showed great energy, which resulted in a diversified offense and at least trying on defense. Interim coach David Adelman started Jalen Pickett next to 4 regular starters, had 0 minutes of Pickett and Westbrook together, and limited Russ's minutes to just 17. The starting unit played so well, all 5 guys scored at least 18 points in the game. Joker had a pedestrian 20-point triple-double, but looked very engaged and vocal. So much so that he barely had the voice to give the on-court post-game interview. Gordon looked very well physically on offense. Mike was scoring from all 3 levels. Christian Braun looked unstoppable at times, but the biggest star was Jalen Pickett, a guy born in Rochester, New York on my 20th birthday, so probably something like 16 years ago. Made 5 out of 7 threes, and all of them were enormous. Very comforting considering Russ's awful shooting night. When Julian Strother returned and looked expectedly rusty. He did manage to grab 7 rebounds in 11 minutes, but was also minus 12 in those 11 minutes. Lastly, Memphis game. Jamal returned for this one. The Nuggets started this game fairly well on offense, but the Grizzlies made 8 threes in the first quarter alone. It was a weird first half. Memphis created a 15-point cushion, and Joker made his first basket with just 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. It was a turning point of this game since the good guys managed to cut the deficit to 6 at halftime. It was a weird first half of the second quarter. With 5 minutes to go of the fourth quarter. Sorry, with 5 minutes to go, the Nuggets were down 5 and missed what felt like 70 shots in a row. Luckily, Nikola Jokic was there, and so was Jamal Murray. The Nuggets battled on defense late, but just like the winning streaks usually happen against horrible opponents, so did this great defensive sequence happen against an awful offensive process from the Grizzlies. But I digress. Ultimately, Joker had 26, 16, and 13 and secured a triple-double average this season. Jamal had 15 and some clutch points and assists. Rust was very good off the bench, and all of it wouldn't matter if Aaron Gordon didn't score 27 of his 33 points in the first 3 quarters. He was a beast. Mike had a bad shooting night, but he battled on the rebounds. Okay, that's enough of an intro. For today, let's bring in some reinforcements. First, one of the 2 most famous trombonists among the Nuggets media. He is a wonderful writer who writes about all Colorado sports since forever. And I don't know for how many years he writes about the Denver Nuggets. You can read his column every weekend on DNVR.com. And the column is called The Weekend. It's Mike Olson.
Thanks, Miro. I keep telling myself I'm going to bring the trombone along for one of these, and then you didn't bring it up last time. I thought, man, maybe I've missed my chance, but
maybe I forgot. Maybe I forgot.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I've at least got it in the background somewhere next time.
Yeah, I'm daring you. You know, I'm daring you. Okay, next up, another friend of mine. He used to be one of my biggest role models in the podcasting business. He is the author of one of my favorite podcasts of all time called The Dig. You used to be able to listen to it on the Denver Stiffs podcast channel. Calling from Denver, it's Nick Hertzog. Welcome back, Nick.
Hey, guys. I'm not entirely sure why we're doing a show today, though, because it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot to talk about. So I guess we'll just try to muddle our way through. But I played saxophone, so if we need something, we could get the trombone, the saxophone. You pull out the guitar behind you, Miro, and we'll get a little jam session going. Because I don't know if we can fill an episode.
I have no idea how this didn't come up earlier. Like I'm talking about music instruments nonstop on this show because I don't know. It's kind of my pet peeve, guys. As Nick mentioned, no news this week whatsoever. But we are going to try to squeeze in an hour from it. So let's start with how the big decision happened and what preceded it. It was a 4 games losing streak by the Nuggets, the first one of such kind this year. Mike, do you have a diagnosis of what happened there? Why the Nuggets were on that kind of slide?
I mean, with everything you read now, and it's been so well covered this week, it feels like things were already pretty stressful. It feels like that double overtime loss to the Timberwolves just let all of the air out of all of their tires. They were running real flat those next 3 games, pretty well across the board. Even with some good effort from a couple of guys, it really hit them hard, and I think they were having a hard time coming back together as a collective. Man, that was a rough loss that night.
Nick, is it just that? Is it just the game they expected? to win because they actually played really well in that game, even though they didn't have Jamal and they didn't have Michael Porter in that game. But at the very end, they just came up a bit short there.
Yeah, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I actually think it maybe is fortunate that they lose that game, because some of the reporting that we're hearing coming out this week now is that it seems like, I don't think Kroenke has said this directly, but he has hinted at the fact that he wanted to make this move at the All-Star break. And if that's the case, and he has specifically said that he thought that winning had been masking some issues. I think that was a pretty direct reference probably to the 8-game winning streak that they went on heading into the All-Star break. And it looks like, at least we're putting a few pieces together, it looks like that's when he was hoping to make a move, and then they get hot. You know, they're kind of on a roll going into the All-Star break. Russ was playing really well. I can see why the team maybe was like, all right, maybe we should see this through. Then after the Wolves loss, I mean, that's probably, I don't know if he said specifically when the decision was made in his mind. I know he's talked about when he talked to Stan about it, but I would have to think that, yeah, after that loss and then just seeing him bleed out and look lethargic and uninspired for 4 games in a row, that calcified the decision. And I'm wondering, yeah, had they beaten the Timberwolves and then gone on a tear, let's say they win 4 in a row, the problems are still there, right? These underlying core issues between Booth and Malone, and a lot of this roster construction issue and the bench play and all of these issues that are coming out now this week, maybe those never get addressed head on until the offseason, and the Nuggets are out in the first round and we're all kind of scratching our heads, and then the move happens, and I don't know. So I think I'm sort of okay with the timeline we're on. I think I like that the move was made before the playoffs started. Maybe now in hindsight, it might have been nice to make it at the All-Star break, because then we would have had a little more time to gel here. But maybe this team needs the gun pointed at their head, right as they're going into the playoffs. I don't know. They seem like they're a team that needs pressure to perform at a high level.
I'm going to pull a move that will sound similar to Mike Singer's move while he was the beat writer for the Denver Nuggets, when Woj would make a Woj bomb on the Nuggets, and then a couple of minutes later, Mike Singer comes up and says, "I can confirm that Woj is right." The league source confirmed. I can also confirm what Dave McManaman wrote about the idea of releasing Michael Malone during the All-Star break. And it's interesting to me because now you can see that even billionaires need to be careful about when they do stuff, not only what they do, but when they do it as well. They think about the backlash from the public, I guess, unless you're in Dallas and you don't care about anything. Like in all the other 29 franchises, you probably want to figure out how the public is going to react to your decision. So that actually puts a little light on the whole move, and not only on this move, but the other moves as well. We remember the way Michael Malone got released from the Sacramento Kings, and it was because DeMarcus Cousins got mononucleosis or something like that, and he wasn't playing for an extended period of time, and they lost some games, and then he was released. Who knows? Maybe he would have been released regardless of that, but they were also maybe waiting for a good circumstances or bad circumstances to happen before they would do that. But Mike, you seem to disagree with me on this one.
I mean, I love Mike Malone. I wrote about him this last week. I'm a huge fan, and I still, with the way all of this, you get to know about how all of this kind of went down. It probably was time to clear house, and so I'm only thinking about the difference between those two firings. I think in Sacramento, Mike was absolutely fired unceremoniously. It was a short time frame, in a terrible moment when he obviously was disadvantaged there. I think he was given a lot of leash here over the course of 10 years. And I do think that, you look back over Denver coaching history, you look at, the Shanahans of the world, things like that, who, are now celebrated as real geniuses who won championships and all of that. they still end up eventually, that voice wears itself out. And it sounds like, especially with the confrontation that was happening in the background that you both referred to, I think it sounds like Mike had lost the locker room. And when that happens, you know, there are very few Popoviches in this world who keep a voice in a space like that for so long. He's had a good decade of this. I'm sad to see him go, and still, I couldn't agree with Nick more. I think if that's what was happening, they both had to go. They both had to go. So,
yeah, I mean, a decade that's a long time. He was the third most tenured coach in the NBA, right? I mean,
that's right.
and I think sometimes the narrative kind of immediately was like, man, he just won a championship like 2 years ago, and it's like, yeah, but look how the team's gone for 2 years now. It's going sideways to down, and now that we know some of these issues that were going on where they just could not get on the same page, it seems like Malone, I think now the if I'm projecting how this will be remembered, I think he was definitely the right coach to get them from young team to championship team. I mean, clearly they won a championship, so we know that he was, but I think why he was is because he instilled a level of discipline and grit and just the swagger that they needed. But I think what had happened is the Nuggets clearly needed to have some sort of philosophical changes in how they were approaching the game and their maybe defensive schemes and obviously rotations, things like that. You know, and this much has been said about the this kind of debate about the young guys and who should be played and all of this kind of thing. And I think he just wasn't able. He just had a point in his career and a point in life where it seems like didn't have the kind of mental flexibility or the desire to make a major kind of pivot in his approach. And so that's fine. He might be able to go and do, to a new team and use the same kind of approach and give them the same results as he got with the Nuggets. But I think at some point, they got to a point where it seems like they needed a shakeup, and it doesn't. To me, from what I can tell, I think the Nuggets had a lot of respect for him. I genuinely think Jokic and Murray and those guys thought highly of Malone, but I'm not seeing a lot of really emotional reactions to this. I mean, I think everybody kind of just had the sense that okay, this is just kind of time to move on. That's just my gut armchair reaction, but
okay, let's take our first break, and after that, what do you know? We're gonna keep talking about this topic. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so when Kentavious Caldwell-Pope wasn't re-signed, I did a segment on him and what he meant to the Nuggets and said I will never mention him again because he's no longer a Nugget. And I lied because I mentioned KCP quite often, especially when I'm frustrated by the defense of the Nuggets this season. So I'm going to do the same lie again and say this will be the last time we're going to talk about Michael Malone and Calvin Booth on this show. So in order to do that, everybody league-wide is talking about the Nuggets firing Michael Malone, and some are reporting how the surprising move happened. Some are lamenting on how bad the timing is, and some swear they knew what was going to happen. But almost nobody talks about Calvin Booth being fired too. Why do you guys think that is? Let's start with Mike again.
I wasn't as big of a Calvin Booth fan, but I didn't know him either. He seemed like a very smart guy in a lot of ways, but it sure seemed like this machine was humming along rather nicely with his predecessor, with everybody getting along and on the same page. It's hard to say if Tim would have made the moves that Cal made to get us the championship, and so kudos to him. That's not an answer to your question. I don't think that Calvin was as well liked by most of the folks around it. You see, just in simple math, how many people say Coach always treated me with respect, whether it was players, media, fans. I think there was a real outpouring there. You don't see that about Cal just about anywhere, as you said, and I think there's just a real simple math to that. I think he was a sticking point that took them both down eventually. I don't think Mike flexed and maybe didn't want to, and here we are.
Yeah, I think the head coach, especially a head coach like Malone, who's kind of a firebrand, right? So just a much more known figure too. He's just in the, he's on our screens all the time. You see clips of him all the time. Booth's a much more, sort of in the shadows type figure. Definitely didn't seek out the spotlight. And when he did talk, he just wasn't like a big personality or anything that would make him particularly interesting. So I think basically most probably Nuggets fans really knew about Booth is just that he had this kind of philosophy about building through the draft, and that they let some guys walk to try to keep a little more financial flexibility and to try to have more of a long view. And I think we could have that debate about whether that was the right strategy or not. But that was the strategy. And clearly that was in the end what the coach and GM just couldn't get on the same page about. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's essentially it. I think so. I think probably your opinion on Booth is largely about your opinion on that strategy. Like if you were upset about KCP walking and you just think that was a waste of Jokic's prime or something like that, you probably don't like Booth. It's probably pretty black and white for most Nuggets fans that way.
I think that's really well said, because you're absolutely right. He did not make himself very known. And what I recall so much about the way people were looking at this strategy, both nationally and locally, almost invariably, the word used to describe it was risky. If it pays off, great, and otherwise it's a risky strategy. And I think that may be set in at least my head, in a lot of our heads. This doesn't seem like the surest way to go to squeeze some more out of what was his self-described Jokic prime. So
yeah, he certainly had a lot of confidence in his scouting ability, but that's not necessarily misplaced confidence, because from what I understand, he is one of the better scouts in the league. I think around the league, he's highly respected for his scouting abilities, him and Connolly. That's my understanding anyway. And I think if you look at what he was able to do with late round picks and second round picks, we have some playable guys. I think he was able to find some diamonds in the rough. So it's just maybe he was a little too all in on that strategy. Ultimately the issue is just if you're going to make that kind of leap, push that kind of sort of risky strategy, like the organization needs to be all in line on that. It has to be all the way down. Everybody's on board, and that clearly wasn't the case.
I think he's an exceptional talent evaluator, and I agree. I think the other half of that gig has to be, you've got to be a better poker player. Mm-hmm. And everybody always knew who he wanted, mm-hmm. what he wanted, and it cost us a lot of picks, a lot of movement that were just, he was sure, and he got good guys, but it always felt like he was paying too much to get them every time.
Or get rid of them. The 3 seconds to get rid of Reggie. I mean, some of those types of moves were just disastrous GMing. Yeah.
If I would have to make my biggest, from my perspective, the biggest shortcoming of Calvin Booth in his tenure with the Nuggets is the fact that he was too brave at his job. I think he was supposed to be the biggest coward of them all. You already have Nikola and Jokic. You already have the core pieces around him. Just keep building on it. Don't get too smart. Don't get too cute. Don't be. There's no need to hit on 5 draft picks for you to be able to compete. That was just. I wasn't a fan of that. On the other hand, I don't think he was that much disliked on the national level. It's just the fact that Michael Malone is a superstar. Michael Malone is a guy who is probably the best quote in the NBA league, if we don't count in Mazzulla in Boston, I guess, a couple of other guys too. It's just he's gonna be such a TV superstar one day when he decides to go, if he decides to go in that direction. And not talking about being a color commentator. He should be in the studio. He should be analyzing stuff and just bringing new fans to the NBA, because he can do that. He is really that kind of a huge star, and that of course that makes sense. This is why everybody was concentrated on that part of a Nuggets renewal, even though I would say that that firing of Calvin Booth is probably as big of a move as the removal of Michael Malone is for the future of the Denver Nuggets. And we're going to talk, of course, in the future of is this just phase one of a Nuggets? I don't want to call it a rebuild, just a reconstruction of the Denver Nuggets. Or we can actually do it right now. What are your feelings about the readiness of this group right now to be intact? Let's call it intact for next season.
I think it at least partially has to do with how they perform this offseason. I mean, obviously, if they were to like win a championship or something crazy, or even get to the finals, I mean, I think you're probably running it back just with with probably a different kind of focus with the bench, maybe packaging some of these young guys and trying to get some veteran upgrades or something. But what were you saying?
Are you bringing everybody back? I mean, they won a championship and they didn't bring everybody back.
Yeah,
they
fair.
Did lose some guys.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, so yeah, maybe it is inevitable. I don't know. Maybe they could even conceivably win a championship and somebody like MPJ still is gone next year. I mean, I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. In fact, his value probably would never be higher if they do, if he plays well in this postseason. And I think the team does seem to know. I think even I think it was Mike or Jokic said this the other day, that they realize this might be their last run together and that they need to make the best of it. I mean, so they see the writing on the wall individually. And so for each of those guys, like if they really are happy on the team, which it seems like this core has been happy playing together. I mean, we haven't really heard any like internal issues about the core guys like having issues with being Nuggets or wanting to leave or anything like that. So yeah, if that's the case, then we might get a much better playoff run than we were going to get otherwise from them with this kind of extra motivation here. But yeah, I mean, it is hard to imagine though that they're going to win a championship this year at this point. So let's like just kind of not even like really talk about that as being a relevant possibility here. Say they go out in the second or third round, maybe. Yeah, I think it's very unlikely that this core is intact next year. I think one of MPJ or Jamal Murray is probably gone.
I love the idea of us taking it further down the road to increase value on those guys, frankly. I think the other part that's hard for me to imagine, and I think that's all really well said, Nick. The other part that's hard for me to imagine is that you're bringing in a new coach, even if it's David Adelman, who has obviously shifted his evaluation of the talent ever so slightly. I loved his quote about we're going with the guys who are winning, basically, whoever they are. But I'm not sure it will be him as the coach. That is a whole new voice and watch person. And I think even more so, you're going to bring in a GM who's going to have some very strong opinions about all of this. And it's hard to picture that they won't make some of those moves. I just worry, what are you going to get for these guys if they're out in the first round or even have a poor showing in the second round? And do you get a poor return on some of what you're trying to get on the market?
And before all that happens, Josh Kroenke is going to be the acting GM, which reminds me of a movie Semi-Pro, where Will Ferrell is the owner, the coach, the best player, and the head cheerleader for the Flint Tropics. So good luck, Josh. I mean, I love the movie, so he might pull it off. Like I kid, but just slightly. We'll talk a bit more about what happened after the move after this short break. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back. So the team responded well to shock therapy. They won against Sacramento and Memphis. and now they have a chance to keep the home court advantage if they win tomorrow. Actually, in 23 hours, if I'm not mistaken, they're playing against Houston the last game, and if they win against Houston, which by the way doesn't have anything to play for, they will keep the number 4 seed, which is not a dream, because that means even if you win in the first round, that means you're probably going to face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the second round. But still, what happened after the move, outside of the obvious? Whoever wants to start.
I'm sorry, what's the question exactly?
What happened to the team so they got reignited so quickly and just took care of the job?
I mean, it's the effort on the defensive end is the biggest thing I'm seeing, and also the physicality they've been playing with is clearly amped up. CB and AG in particular have been playing bully ball down low, and I just loved how they've played the last 2 games. That to me that's a mindset thing. It's an energy thing. It's a motivation thing. It's not, like these aren't issues of like skill when you're just like bodying somebody down low and dunking on them in a way that we haven't, with a kind of edge to it that we haven't quite seen for a while. So to me, that shows that there is a real drive here, and I think that's the biggest thing on defense. It's just the coordination issues, the team chemistry issues. I think on this team, at least, it's very obvious now that their defensive issues were largely related to that, because that's where you need everybody kind of on the same page and people being really bought in and motivated and high energy. And clearly now they already look like a significantly better defensive team just because of that. It's because they seem to be more cohesive now. So how far can that take them, and how much can they fix the wing on the airplane as we're already in the air into the playoffs here, to actually make a run? Yeah, I don't know, but I think it's looking much more promising than the last stretch of games, not just because they won 2, but just the way they're playing they look like a different basketball team to me.
Look like they're playing more on that string that we were used to seeing that championship season on the defensive end, and that does feel, I think a lot of that is AG physically recommitting. You see a lot of that in these last couple of games. I think Nick's very much on point there. The other piece that I really liked that I saw out there, I think it was Harrison that I saw call it out first, but offensively, I think in that first game, and this still was pretty true in this second game, Joker's getting less touches in the game, and they're actually using his gravity in a different way. He still, good things still happen when he touches the ball, but it's not a why didn't he touch the ball sort of an offense anymore. It's they're also using his gravity to pull players out of a play and letting the other guys who are now playing a 4-on-3, a 3-on-2, giving them at least the advantage to play basketball the way they should. And I think those both, that all of that reminds me of what they were calling Nuggets basketball in the championship season, the defensive and the offensive end. It's just a more free-flowing game. Everybody gets to eat. Yeah, the ball is popping. Back to Adam. Yeah, it's just exactly right.
I made a little Twitter thread a couple of days ago mentioning a historical precedent from 1998 when my Partizan Belgrade dismissed their head coach, not 3, but 2 games before the end of regular season in EuroLeague. And they went to win like 6 consecutive games or something like that, and went all the way to the Final Four, which is a huge surprise for a very young team Partizan Belgrade had back then. So let's hope this kind of shock therapy can move the team all the way there. And I guess that would mean something like a Western Conference Finals appearance or something like that, which, considering everything that has happened this season, would be an amazing success, and maybe something. And Adam Mares talked about this on the Athletic NBA show a couple of days ago. Maybe Josh Kroenke was afraid that the Nuggets might catch what's the phrase, a fish in a pan. No, what's the word? Maybe they would just luck out into going all the way to the Western Conference Finals because they have the best player in the world, and then Michael Malone would be covered again with a good result and would stay head coach, even though Josh Kroenke didn't want him to. So maybe this is why there was such a rush to make this kind of move.
Yeah, and this is a veteran team that has played together for a long time too. So this isn't the kind of disruption that it even was for like Memphis, who hasn't really achieved anything with this group yet, or like it would be for like even the same team like 3 or 4 years ago, I think. They already Jokic is practically the head coach anyways. He's practically coaching on the floor all game long. So it's not really like there's going to be some kind of a.
He lost his voice during that Sacramento game. How much he was yelling at his teammates at the timeouts and everything. It was really nice to see. Actually, it already happened this last summer at the Olympics. He was taking that whiteboard in his hands many times during the Olympics. So yeah, when the smartest basketball person in the world talks, you should probably listen to him and see what he has to.
Yeah, so it's not. I mean, it's not inconceivable if they get the Clippers, if things stay the way they are, right? I think they play the Clippers in the first round. I mean, Nuggets have owned the Clippers. Like that's not been a difficult matchup for us for a number of years now. I know the Clippers have been playing well, but let's just say they ride this momentum and they beat the Clippers in 5. Even going into an OKC series, and if on that kind of a roll where they've won, let's say they beat Houston, let's say they've won like 7 out of 8, and they look like something closer to the team we're used to seeing. I actually don't. I think they match up pretty good against OKC, and I think they can beat them in a 7-game series. So that becomes the series, right? I mean, that is it. And if you can find a way to grit it out, I mean, it's not inconceivable to me that they could find themselves in the Western Conference Finals or the Finals.
So let's dive right into that, because I was listening to Matt Moore and his breakdown of the playoff picture in the West, because I'm not smart enough to know how the tiebreakers work. Like, I have no idea. But here's the thing: if the Nuggets win tomorrow night, they're going to be the number 4 seed, which means they're going to play against the Clippers. But the Clippers need to win against Golden State to be number 5. If not, it's going to be the Timberwolves, and we're not going to love that.
Timberwolves and OKC in round 1 and 2 is probably I'm not taking out a second mortgage.
But then, if they find a way to lose the game against the Houston that has nothing to play for, then it gets super tricky. They can fall to 6 and play the Lakers. They can fall to 7 to the play-in and play against Memphis on next Wednesday. And God forbid they lose that game against Memphis. That would mean that they would play on Friday, the day I'm landing in Denver. And probably my plane is going to be late and I'm going to miss the game, and then I'm going to murder myself and stuff like that. I'm just kidding. But yeah, they can actually play almost anybody at this point. The biggest, the highest percentage chance is the Clippers or the Timberwolves, and I guess you can put a little percentage there on the Lakers. Who would you prefer out of that group, Mike?
Would absolutely prefer the Clippers. Totally agreed. The Timberwolves have obviously given us fits all year, including, I think, starting off that 4-game losing streak. They still match up well against us even without Cat this year. I think that's exactly right. We'll most likely have the Thunder then in the second round and have a much better chance of having a downhill rolling chance if we're doing it past the Clippers than past the Wolves.
It's true. And I forgot to mention, if they would fall to 7 and win the first play-in game, that means they would play against Houston in round 1. And I've heard some people saying that that's actually the best possible scenario. I will hard disagree there, because you don't want to piss the basketball gods that bad to be the 7th seed hoping to be the number 2 seed. no number 7 seed should ever win against a number 2 seed, even though they're probably a better team. And I would actually agree that Houston doesn't have the experience needed to beat the Nuggets in that series. But we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, other than the Wolves, that's the team I don't want to see in the first round. I'm kind of okay with any of the other possibilities, I think. And I think any of those could be a short series, depending on how they play. I mean, obviously, but like I think
they could be a short series.
I'm not particularly scared of the Lakers. Like, who is going to guard Jokic on the Lakers right now? Like, he is going to feast in that series if they get to the Lakers. I mean, I think that's a short series too. I don't care about Luka. Like, that's just not enough. I don't think. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's naive of me because I know the Lakers have been playing pretty well too. But like, yeah, I think avoiding the Wolves. That's what I'm watching for tomorrow. Just fingers crossed. And
so you came into this show as Nicholas the unready, but now you're Nicholas the optimist.
You're right. I am kind of
here.
Yeah.
Imagine, I mean, I think we're all not putting any second mortgages down, but imagine if somehow they do get on a hot streak and we do run through this thing, the stories, if they were actually able to win it all after firing with 3 games left in the season. I'd love to read those. That'd be fun.
I am kind of my current mood in just life right now is kind of rooting for the funniest possible outcomes of things to happen. So I do think that that is probably the funniest thing I can think of happening this year.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, you're just being selfish now. You just want to have the perfect story to write about.
I'm thinking of Cal and Moch both at home on their couches with their arms folded, just shaking their heads as we just run roughshod. But
they hire him back in the offseason.
That's the funniest.
Now we're just going into the hot shots or maybe airplane kind of humor.
Yeah, the imaginary. Yeah.
A lot of absurd stuff going on these days. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, let's take our last short break, and then we're going to do a bit of a massive segment on who do we trust the most going into the playoffs. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back, and in case you haven't noticed already, I'm ill as a dog, and hopefully I will be able to power through this last segment. The last segment I called the confidence meter. So, guys, I'm going to give you a scale from 1 to 5 plus, 1 being not confident at all, and 5 plus being complete confidence. Let's grade the following Nuggets in no particular order. So, first, Nikola Jokic. Do we have a grade for him going into these playoffs?
5++.
Yeah, 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
We already broke the scale. Yeah. Is there anything to add to it, honestly? Because he has had a pretty bad defensive season overall this season. But except for the steals, but the steals are always there. Luka has a lot of steals as well.
But his defense has always been predicated on the other 4 guys with him. It's a team defensive concept with him.
Yeah.
If they're not playing it, then he looks like hell. And sorry to interrupt you, Miro, but
no. I completely agree with that, because I remember what kind of world beater Joel Embiid was while he had Ben Simmons in front of him, and then lo and behold, when he got some tiny guys in front of him, he wasn't looking as amazing as he did before that. Well, but I digress about a former NBA player. I agree. Nikola Jokic, at least if we base it on the last couple of games, you can see he is ready to play on a string, to play high-level basketball, and especially if the Nuggets find a way not to use him like 140 times per game and just have some freelancing in that offense, not complete freelancing. I mean system freelancing from other guys. We have a chance to get another all-timer appearance from him in the
this is a little
playoffs.
off topic, but you just made me think of something, Miroslav. I hadn't thought of until this very second. They're going into this playoffs now with no pressure, zero pressure. They go on the first round, people will just be like, yeah, okay, well, you changed coach. Yeah, it's to be expected. If they had gone into this playoff run looking the way they were, with no changes being made, they're in it with a ton of pressure because they know Malone's job is probably at stake and Calvin Booth's job is probably at stake and probably their jobs are at stake. Now there is a little bit of that now with this core, thinking maybe this is our last run or whatever, maybe you want to, but that may be a foregone conclusion at this point anyway. So I wonder what that will do for this particular team. I'm not sure. It's just something I want to throw out there. I just think it's an interesting thing to watch for, to see if there's a different kind of pop and ball that we get because of that. If they're playing looser, they're actually having fun, and playing with energy. I mean, that's the team I've kind of seen the last couple of days, I feel like.
It'll be interesting. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I would think that would normally be a positive. But I also agree with something you said earlier, that this is a pressure-prompted team. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they need that pressure. I'm actually concerned that they're going to come close to screwing up this game against Houston, because Houston won't play any starters, and we'll take it for granted. Et cetera. Yeah, exactly. But man, I think it's a cool idea. I think
just
that's
throwing it out
possible.
there. Yeah, it's occurred to me. Yeah, like I said, you're right though. It may not be a good thing, but it is a thing now. That I think there is just a completely different kind of mood that they're going into the playoffs with. So,
and by the way, David Adelman is playing with house money. Like whatever he does with this team, he's gonna make a name for himself. It's gonna be like Micah guy on the Timberwolves last year. He had some amazing games against the Nuggets as an interim coach while head coach was injured on the bench. So
maybe we see some wacky stuff. He starts the game with an onside kick or something. Like, see what they can pull out.
Yeah. So I agree. So let's jump right into David Adelman. What do you expect of him, and how would you quantify that coming into the playoffs?
I'd give him a 4. He's been the interim coach a couple times when Moch has been out.
He's unbeaten, by the way. He's like 6-0 as an interim coach.
I didn't know that. That's a good stat. It's also, to both of your point, it's a veteran team. I think he is playing with house money. He can only tweak things to the better with all he already knows about this. He's basically the architect of this offensive concept anyway. I think he's brought them back to more of what he wants to see that way. I think he's got a good strong 4 in my book.
Yeah, I really like what I've seen so far. I don't know a ton about him other than just, when I've seen him as an interim coach and a couple times in interviews and things like that. But so far I really like what I see. And I think to kind of tie back into the point I was just making about this kind of pressure issue, he clearly is much more okay with playing any of the young guys. Now, like this whole, like there's Booth guys and Malone guys, and there's like this weirdness on the bench. It's like, all that's gone now. Now it's just like, this is our team. These are our guys. And like, I'm going to play any of you, like just play well and you'll get a chance. And so I think that gives me more confidence in him going into this playoffs than maybe I would have had in Malone if we were redoing this had nothing happened. So I think 4, 3 plus 4 somewhere in there, because we don't know exactly. I mean, he hasn't coached in a playoff series.
You both made great points here about Adelman, and I will add another one. He reminds me of my friend whose name is Mlađa. He has the exact same head as Mlađa, and they also actually move the same way. It's pretty amazing. So if I add that to it, I might even give him a 4+. Honestly, like I'm really excited about what we're gonna see from David Adelman in these playoffs. Hopefully playoffs. Maybe play-in and then playoffs. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's jump now into the biggest mystery of universe, Jamal Murray.
Question mark? Can I?
Yeah.
For a 4 question mark. yeah, he's a wild card. It's just I don't know. But he's looked okay coming back from injury. He had a couple big clutch makes last night, which is good to see. That's the Murray we need. And the 2-man game was there to go to when they needed it. So, and that was against a really good defensive team in Memphis. So, I thought that was a really good sign. And Memphis clearly had something to play for in that game. That game felt very much like a playoff game to me. So, but that's we have a small sample now with him back from the hammy, and then obviously with last year how it went. But he was looking really good before he went out. So, fingers crossed that they were able to give him enough time that the hamstring won't be an issue. I think that's what it was, right? Some kind of muscle thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully the physical stuff isn't an issue, and if that's the case, then I have confidence in Murray. I think he was back prior to that.
I wish I had a 4. I've got a 3, and it's only because I think he's either a 5 or a 1, and I can't tell which one it is, so I'm gonna sit right in the middle.
What's the difference?
Yeah, that's the right way to assess it. Honestly, if he was healthy, I would probably give it a 5-, because the way he looked just right before the hamstring injury, he was amazing. He was making some crazy shots. Like, it was not only vintage Murray. I would even suggest that it was even more impressive than some of his playoff highlights we've seen in 23 and 2020. So. Yeah, it's really difficult. I guess you need to go to the arithmetic middle and go with a 3 there. But yeah, we have no idea. Like I could have said 5, and Mike could have said 1, or vice versa, and we would still get to the same point. So yeah, I have to agree there. Okay, Aaron Gordon. And before you answer this, I will tell you, Aaron Gordon has the highest approval rating of any NBA player not called Nikola Jokic in Serbia since he arrived to the Nuggets. But no pressure. Like you give me your grade.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's Mr. Nugget, so he's got the highest approval rating for everybody. I
think that's right.
Yeah, I'm a 5 for AG. I'm not worried about what he will give us, and their offense doesn't rely on him. He's been putting up 30-point games, without much effort recently. His shooting has been great this year so far. We're at the end of the season. His shooting was, especially from 3 this year, has been spectacular. And yeah, I think the effort, his defense has dropped off this year. But again, we've been talking about this. I mean, the defense just for everybody was just not, it was down, and they don't have like one defensive monster stopper guy. AG probably is the closest thing that they have to that, maybe him and CV. And I think it'll be there in the playoffs. I'm not worried about like energy with him or like even consistency just isn't that much of an issue with AG, I don't think, because if he's not hitting or whatever, the offense doesn't need to roll through him. So it's more of just like a consistent energy effort thing, and I think it'll be there.
I mean, my only worry with him, I love all of that, and I agree. And he's actually he's playing the way he had been playing, both defensively, and I can't remember who called out the other day that I saw that he's moved back down into the dunker spot more this last couple of games as well. All of that's just more natural for him. All of that spring in his step, all of that defense leaves me ever so slightly worried that he may re-injure what he's been battling all season, basically. So that's the only reason I had him at a 4. But all the confidence in the world as long as he can keep up what he's been doing these last couple of games.
Yeah, there's a big group of video games called Beat 'em Up, and if the Nuggets come into the playoffs with that kind of mentality, just beat everybody up, just make the refs try to figure what is a foul and what's not. Like, just be more physical than the other team. It's the playoffs. The whistle is not so loose as it is in the regular season. I think the Nuggets have a pretty good chance because they are, in theory, one of the most physical teams in the league. They just need to support that with their doing. And yeah, I'm gonna go 4+ here, just because he hasn't been healthy at all. this season, and I hope he can squeeze out the 2 months of real good health and just go back to where he was in 2023 and big parts of 2024.
Yeah,
as well.
I need to do like 4+ or 5-. I need to knock a little something down for the health concerns for sure.
Yeah. MPJ.
I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. He's been real inconsistent, not only all year, but recently. Even, plus minus, I know people hate that number. And box plus minus, his last 4 or 5 games they're rough. I don't, his arc is not in a good spot. I've got him at a 2 coming in. I hope he can pick it up because we're unbeatable when he's the guy who's also on fire, but he doesn't look it right now for sure.
No, I think it's fair. I mean, I was thinking something like 2+ or 3-. And also because he has a history of not really having consistent playoff runs too, where he'll have maybe one series where he shoots really well, and then the next series he can't throw a pea in the ocean. Like for a guy that should be one of the best shooters in the league every year, to have those kinds of like fluctuations and swings and stuff. I don't know if it's somewhat related to some of his like back issues and health issues, or if it's a mental thing, or I don't know. I'm not entirely sure why he's always kind of struggled with consistency. But I think if that's what we're rating here, which I think that was the list, right? Or how much confidence do we have in somebody? Yeah, he's probably, for the core, he's probably like my lowest guy that I have confidence in. But he is also kind of the ultimate, other than maybe Murray, but like he is this kind of pocket ace kind of guy that if he gets hot, they are unbeatable. I mean, it is pretty much that simple. At least offensively, there's nothing anybody can do with them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm also at a like a 2+ kind of level with MPJ, and it's not because I don't think he can be good. He can be excellent, but it's very matchup dependent. There are teams he's gonna look great against, and there are gonna be teams he's gonna look horrible against. I'm really scared of a Minnesota series for him. I'm actually kind of scared from the Clippers series as well for MPJ, but I like the matchup for the Lakers. So yeah, I really don't know.
And he played pretty well in some of the Clippers playoff games in the past, I think, didn't he? I feel like I remember him having a good series against the Clippers, actually, but
that was a long time ago.
Misremembering. Yeah,
that was a long time ago. Yeah, that's 4 seasons ago. So is it 5 seasons ago?
Did they only play? Was it only once they played? Why am I
Yeah.
thinking there was twice? I guess
Only
it
in
was only that one where they
Yeah.
came back. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years ago. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world in the past.
Yeah, a lot of
5
water
years.
under the bridge.
Let's go to Christian Brown now. Mike, Christian Brown.
I've got CB somewhere between a 4 and a 5. He's his point of attack defense has looked a lot better of late. He's been such an offensive force all season, and it felt like that was some of the trade-off for him. But I see both of those things on the court as the playoffs are looming. I feel really strongly that he's going to be. I don't think he's the biggest factor for us, but I've got a huge level of confidence that he's going to keep up this level of play.
Yeah, I'm in there too, and somewhere in the 4s. And it's just probably because of his shot, his 3-point shot in particular. I don't know that that's going to be a reliable shot in the playoffs, and if it's not, then I think that will be an issue. If he can hit 40% of his wide open threes, that's going to do a ton in the playoffs to help this offense. So with that caveat, everything else about his game translates super well to the playoffs. I mean, that's how he really got into the position he's at now, is because he had such a playoff like friendly game, right? He plays with ton of energy, ton of heart, ton of grit. He's, a great defensive player. He's got a nose for the ball. He's got a nose for just kind of like big moments too, big dunks, big. He's a playmaker, and so I think his game really always has translated well to the playoffs because of that.
Oh yeah, I have nothing to add. 5- for me. Let's do a flash round now. Russell Westbrook.
3 for the same reason. I don't know if he's a 1 or a 5.
If it's just confidence level, it's a 1 for me. I do not have confidence in him performing in a playoff series because I've never seen it before. So if you like, okay, not never. What they went to a finals one time, right? But he has been one of. If Murray is the greatest playoff riser, I think Westbrook has been one of the greatest playoff droppers in NBA history. Maybe him and Harden. So I just, and at this point in his career, I mean, he's in a different role. He's not leading a team. So, and I don't mean to, that sounds a little harsher on Westbrook. I've actually really enjoyed watching him play this year. So I'm not meaning to like just spew Westbrook hate, but man, when it comes to the playoffs, it's just, the problem is that he is not a good shooter. And it just causes a lot of defensive, issues. So yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence in.
Yeah, I will go with 3- just because it's not a 50th percentile outcome from him. I think it's a tiny bit lower than that. So 3- from me. Jalen Pickett.
4. Love his game. Kicking ass.
Yeah, same as if he gets. We'll see if he gets some opportunity. I hope he does. It seems like he will now. So I wish we would have been seeing Jalen Pickett all year now in hindsight, but I'm glad we're seeing him now.
Yeah, consensus 4 from me here too. DJ, he looks like a 9th guy right now for the Nuggets.
Probably a lot of DMPs, huh?
Yeah, if he's playing double-digit minutes, I've got him at a 3. If he's not, then I don't care what the number is. So.
It's survival.
Yeah.
Survival.
Yeah.
In that case.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I guess I would say I'm okay with even putting him at 5 just because, like, I know what he is. I mean, he'll give you what he gives you. That's, like, I don't think there's – it's not like he has, like, horrible games or inconsistencies or things like that. He just is what he is at this point. So
I think he's better this year. I think he's playing more in the system this year than he ever has. And I think if he's got 8 minutes a game, I'm crazy to see it. I think that'd be wonderful. If we're playing him more than that, we're not playing what we need to be doing.
Also, he's been playing really good in some spots this year when nobody expected him to play at all. Like, there were some matchups, everybody would say there's no way DJ can play in this game, and he just comes in and has 14 rebounds in 8 minutes or something like that. So yeah, DJ has been fine, and yeah, I feel confident in him playing spot minutes. Probably not in every game, but yeah, I will give him a 4 for the role he's supposed to play there. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We managed to do this in less than 63 minutes or something like that. I will call everybody to go to DNVR.com and read Mike's last weekend column. It is about Michael Malone, and it's an amazing piece of writing. Just go there and read 10 years of emotion distilled into one. I don't know how many words.
I don't either.
Piece. So just go and read it. Nick, do you want to promote something as well? Maybe.
Go Nuggets.
Go Nuggets.
Thank you so much, guys. And that is all I've prepared for you this week, my dear listener. And please, with a cherry on top, take the words prepared very loosely. Be well, be safe, be kind to everybody. Call your mom. And until next week, our last week's opponent, Trey Lyles.
R.I.P. Mike.